Welcome to Her Health Podcast, your ultimate destination for all things women's wellness, fertility, hormonal, and menstrual health. I'm your host, holistic nutritionist Eliana. Get ready to dive into the world of nutrition, natural remedies, and overall well-being. From busting health myths to uncovering the latest research, I'm here to provide you with the knowledge, empowerment, and tools you need to nourish your body, mind, and soul. I'm so excited to be here with you today to talk about all things women's health to help you thrive in every aspect of your life. Are you ready? Let's get it. Welcome back to Her Health Podcast. I'm Eliana, your host, and today we're talking about how to naturally check for ovulation and the physical signs you should be looking out for. Whether you're trying to conceive or you simply want to better understand your body, tracking ovulation is such a helpful and important tool for connecting with your cycle, with your body. And ovulation is when your body releases an egg. And it's the time when you're most fertile. But beyond fertility, ovulation plays such a huge role when it comes to your overall hormone balance, energy levels, and how you feel during the month. So in this episode, we will talk about what ovulation really is, how to naturally track it, and the physical signs that tell you that it's actually happening. Because bleeding and getting a period does not translate that you actually ovulated. But we will talk about that in a second. So let's start from the basics. What is ovulation? Let's talk about what ovulation is. Ovulation is when one of your follicles, those little sacs of fluid in your ovaries, grows big enough, and thanks to the luteinizing hormone, it finally ruptures and releases an egg. This egg then travels down your fallopian tube, and that is where it waits to be fertilized. And if the egg isn't fertilized, your body will eventually shed the uterine lining, and that will result in your period. It's really important to understand that bleeding does not necessarily mean that you're ovulating. Many women assume that if they get their period, they must have ovulated that cycle, but that is not actually always the case. Your ovaries can still produce estrogen, and which thickens the uterine lining, even if you don't ovulate. So knowing how to track ovulation is the key to understanding your cycle better, because again, you can be bleeding but not ovulating. So we actually don't know if we ovulate every single month unless we actually track it and we actually know what's going on in our body. So let's talk a little bit about the physical signs that your body gives you around ovulation. These are things that you can naturally observe, so you don't need any fancy equipment or anything like that. So first of all, one of the easiest and most noticeable signs of ovulation is changes in your cervical mucus. We're going to call this CM for short. And as you approach ovulation, your cervical mucus changes to a very specific consistency. And now this can be a little bit like TMI, but we're all women. We all experience this. So the consistency I'm talking about is clear, slippery, stretchy, and it's kind of like raw egg white consistency. And this type of mucus creates a more sperm-friendly environment in our body. It helps the sperm swim easily towards the egg. So now, this is so freaking fascinating because our body knows exactly what to do. And what's interesting is that this change happens before you ovulate. So it's a great way to know that you're entering your fertile window. And so once you notice this egg white cervical mucus, ovulation is usually about 1 to about 3 days away. So that will be a great indicator. If you're trying to conceive, you want to like get after it. Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. If you're not trying to conceive, you need to wrap it up. Wrap it up. Stay away from your partner in that window 1 to 3 days because you are very fertile. So another way to actually track ovulation is by monitoring your basal body temperature. We're going to call it BBT for short. And this is your body's lowest resting temperature. And you can track it by taking your temperature first thing in the morning before you even get out of bed, before you move around. We need that temperature to be taken, and you need a specific thermometer. It's called BBT thermometer, basal body temperature thermometer, or better, I have a band that I use. It's from Temp Drop, and I love it because you don't actually need to take your temperature every single day at the same time. So it's very useful for people that work shift work. And if you forget to take your temperature every single day at the same time, this tool is very helpful. It's like a band that you put on at night before you go to bed, and then you take it out in the morning and then you sync it. I actually have a discount code for this specific device, so I'm going to leave it down below. But if you're just using a BBT thermometer, what you want to do is you want to take your temperature before you want to have your thermometer right beside your nightstand, like in your nightstand, right beside your bed, and take it in the morning before you get out of bed, before you go to the washroom, before you do anything. You take your temperature and you write it down. And ideally, you need to take the temperature every single day at the same hour, at the same time, because that is when we get the most accurate numbers. So now that's why I love the Temp Drop, because it gives you the freedom to actually not take the temperature every single day at the same time. So you can just wear the band and take it out in the morning, sync it, and you're good to go. So before ovulation, your BBT is usually lower. So it'll be around 97 to 97.5, 97.6 degrees Fahrenheit. But once you ovulate, the hormone progesterone kicks in and causes your temperature to rise by about 0.5 degrees or 1 degree. So the spike indicates that ovulation has just happened. It's usually the day after you see the spike, usually the day after you ovulate. And this method is super useful, especially when you've been tracking your temperature for a few months, because you can start to see the patterns in your cycle. So keep in mind, though, that the temperature spike happens after ovulation. So it happens the day after ovulation. And the way that we confirm ovulation is if that temperature stays high for at least 3 days in a row, consecutive days. That is so fascinating and so important. When you start first tracking your basal body temperature, you're going to be very confused. I was very confused, but once you start tracking it for a few months, you're actually going to have a full picture of what's going on, and you can see the chart. You can read your charts. I usually read the charts for my clients. And that is such a useful tool that will give you so much information about your thyroid, your hormones, if you're ovulating or not. So I really love to use basal body temperature. And I find it is one of the most accurate ways to confirm ovulation, along with the cervical mucus and cervical positioning. So I just want to touch on this thing real quick, and that is what some women experience sometimes, and it's called Mittelschmerz. I hope I'm saying this right, but it basically means ovulation pain. And it's not actually a pain where you're like it's so painful. No, it's like a mild cramping or twinge that you might feel, you might or you might not feel on one side of your lower abdomen. And it's around the time that your ovary releases the egg. And again, it doesn't happen to everyone, but if you do feel this mild cramping, it's another way that your body's telling you that your ovulation is happening. Another way is that you can get a mid-luteal phase blood test. So this is typically done around day 21 or maybe day 25 and or about 7 days after you suspect that you have ovulated, and it measures your progesterone levels, which should be higher after ovulation. So this is a great way that you can confirm ovulation, especially if your cycle is irregular or you're trying to conceive. So you can get a blood test to test progesterone. If progesterone is high, you can basically confirm ovulation because progesterone is only produced when you ovulate. And that is why ovulating is so crucial, so important, regardless of whether you're trying to conceive or not. Ovulation is not just for conceiving. So that is why it's so important, because progesterone can only be made from ovulation. So if we don't ovulate, we don't produce progesterone. I'm going to be quickly touch on the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle because I get asked this over and over again, but I'm just going to touch on this because I want to keep these episodes short. I've been getting so many great feedbacks and people love shorter episodes instead of like an hour long episode. So my goal is to try and keep these episodes concise and short, relatively short. So I'm just going to be touching on this quickly, and then I'm actually going to do a full episode on this so that you get the full picture. But to really understand ovulation and how it fits into your overall health, it's essential to get familiar with the 4 phases of your menstrual cycle. Each phase is very unique and it has its own set of hormonal changes, fluctuations that affect your mood, your energy, how your body feels. So let's break it down very quickly. So we have the follicular phase. It lasts until ovulation. So during this phase, your hormones are basically at their lowest, but they're starting to slowly rise. And the main hormone at play here is the FSH, which is released by your pituitary gland. FSH stimulates the follicles in your ovaries to grow and mature and in preparation for ovulation. So as your follicles grow, they produce estrogen, which thickens the lining of your uterus and it prepares it for a potential pregnancy. How incredible is our body? Like, it's a perfect machine. It's so freaking fascinating. So the follicular phase is also the phase where you generally feel more energized, more focused, because your levels, your estrogen and testosterone levels, they start to increase, which makes you feel more motivated, strong, and ready to tackle challenges. So this is a great time to plan more intense workouts, creative projects, or any big goal that you've been wanting to work on, because your body is primed for activity and resilience during this time. If you've been trying to conceive for a few months now and you have some hormone imbalances, I always suggest to take it down a notch when it comes to exercising. But we will talk about that another time in another episode more in depth. So let's move on to ovulation phase. So the ovulation phase is the shortest phase of your cycle, but it's also the most critical, the most important. And this is when that big surge of luteinizing hormone LH occurs. It triggers one of your follicles to release the egg, like we talked about earlier, and this usually happens around day 14 of a 28-day cycle. But now it can vary depending on the length of your cycle. 28 days is just a general guideline, but a regular, a normal, a real menstrual cycle can vary between 28 days to 35 days. You can see how ovulation can vary and it can change based on the length of your cycle. So during this phase, your estrogen levels, they are at their peak. And you might feel very confident, very attractive, very social. If you pay attention, you will notice these changes and these patterns. Your body is biologically primed to be fertile during this time. So it's basically no coincidence that many women feel a natural boost in energy and mood during this phase, during this ovulation phase. You also might feel more like sexy, you might feel more drawn to your partner. That is because our body is biologically primed to be fertile. So if you're trying to conceive, this is your most fertile window. Remember, your egg is only viable for about 12 to 24 hours, and the sperm can survive up to 5 days. So these days leading up to ovulation are also part of your fertile window. Moving on to the luteal phase. It's just so fascinating. Like, our body is so incredible. Luteal phase. After ovulation has occurred, you enter the luteal phase, which lasts until the start of your next period. So during this phase, the follicle that releases the egg transforms into the corpus luteum, which produces progesterone. So now you can see how important it is to actually ovulate every month. So progesterone is the main hormone that helps stabilize the uterine lining, making it ready to support a pregnancy if your egg is fertilized. This phase is often described as the calm after the storm. Progesterone is like the yin to estrogen's yang. Progesterone is calming, soothing. It prepares your body to either maintain a pregnancy or start the next cycle. And this is the time in your cycle where you might feel more introspective, more relaxed. And some women also experience PMS symptoms during this phase, like bloating, mood swings, cravings. If you've been here listening to this podcast or follow me on Instagram for a while, you know I'm not a fan of PMS symptoms and that they shouldn't be happening if you have balanced hormones, but that's for another day. Progesterone has some amazing, incredible benefits, and that is why ovulation is so important, because we can only make progesterone if ovulation occurs. I think I've said that 20,000 times, but I want you to really get the concept of healthy ovulation. So progesterone, it helps reduce inflammation, supports a restful sleep, balances your nervous system, and it's even great for your skin, your hair, your metabolism. The luteal phase is a good time to slow the freak down. We want to focus on gentle self-care, nourish your body with wholesome food, balanced meals, rich in healthy fats, protein. It is a time for rest and repair. That is what it's all about. And you might feel it naturally. You might feel like you want to rest more, you're more not as outgoing, and that is why. That is exactly why. Finally, you reach the menstrual phase, which is the start of your next cycle. If the egg isn't fertilized, your progesterone and estrogen levels will drop and your uterine lining will start shedding, which is what causes your period. Hormones are at their lowest during this phase, and it's completely normal to feel tired, low energy, or a little more emotional. That's the way it is, because our hormones are very low during that time. In this phase, we want to focus on rest and gentle movement. Many women find that light yoga, walking, or just taking time for themselves helps them feel more balanced and helps them during this phase. This is also a great time to reflect, to set new intentions, and let go. Let go both emotionally and physically. And it's also important to honor how you feel during this time. Some days your body just needs a little bit of rest to take it slow, and that is completely okay. So during this phase, we want to focus on rest. During this phase, we want to focus on like nurturing our body, taking care of our body, listening to our body. So these are the four phases of the menstrual cycle. Obviously, I touched on very quickly, but I want to touch on exercise and ovulation. Now, when it comes to exercise in your menstrual cycle, it's all about working with your body, not against it. During the follicular phase and ovulation phase, you will likely feel more energetic, and this is what makes it a great time for more intense workouts like cardio, strength training, HIIT workouts. Your body is actually telling you what to do. We just need to learn how to listen. You will have the resilience to push your body a little bit harder. So in luteal and menstrual phases, your energy naturally decreases. And this is when it's important to dial back the intensity of your workouts. And you want to do more gentle exercises like yoga, Pilates, walks. Walks are so great. They're so underrated, but walks are incredible. If you're in the early stages of managing something like PCOS or healing your hormonal imbalances, it is a great idea and a great time to keep your workouts to not more than 30 minutes. We really need to do that. And this helps prevent overproduction of cortisol, which can contribute to adrenal fatigue, hormonal imbalances. So if you're trying to manage PCOS or hormonal imbalances, please tone it down. Don't do more than 30 minutes workouts because we really want to nurture those hormones. And if we do HIIT workouts, cardio, and all these intense exercises, it will actually produce more cortisol, which contributes to adrenal fatigue, hormonal imbalances. So to wrap it all up, understanding your cycle and the signs of ovulation, the signs that your body is giving you can actually really help to make you feel more in tune with your body and your hormonal health. Whether you're tracking to conceive or just want to balance your hormones, being able to recognize these natural signs that your body's giving you is such a powerful tool. And you're going to be confused at first. Like you're not going to be sure of what's happening, of what you're actually doing. But trust me, when you start tracking your ovulation signs and your period and all the different symptoms, your BBT, your cervical mucus, after a few months, it's all going to come together. And if you're ever unsure, you can come to me and I'll be happy to read your charts and interpret your charts. But remember, it's all about honoring your body's rhythms and giving it what it needs in each different phase. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to share with a friend who might need it too. And of course, follow the podcast for more tips on women's health, fertility, natural wellness. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at healthy with Eliana, ELIANA_, because I am posting up to 3 times a day over there. And I give so much value, so much education that you are going to love, because as women, we're not educated on what actually goes on in our body, and it's not our fault. We're never exposed to that. So I am here to educate you, to give you so much value, and to help you understand your body better, to help you balance your hormones, to help you conceive, enhance your fertility. So I am here for all of that. So follow me, follow this podcast, leave me a review, leave me a 5-star review if you like what I'm doing. And if you find this helpful, that's it for today. If you have any questions or you want to dive deeper into cycle tracking, feel free to reach out. I have my hormone balancing program, which is so incredible. I swear by it. So many people do, and I've helped so many women with it. If you have hormonal imbalances, if you have PMS, PCOS, endometriosis, if you want to get off birth control and you want to avoid the post-birth control syndrome, which is so many different unwanted side effects of the birth control pill. If you want to support your body while you are on birth control, my hormone balancing program will help you do exactly that. I am going to leave all the information in the show notes below, so check that out. That is it for today. If you have any questions or want to dive deeper into cycle tracking, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share with a friend, and tag me on social media so I can say thank you. Remember to prioritize self-care and listen to your body. Until next time, stay healthy and vibrant.